All right. Good evening, everybody. With your permission, I'm going to record this call. I know a lot of people have not been able to make it. It's a working day. So, as usual, we're going to put up this call on our YouTube channel for anybody who's not been able to attend. They can always go back and refer this presentation. So, we were doing these sessions last year. We did about a few where we were picking up a topic purely picking up the field of the athletes, and from there picking up a topic and discussing it with the community, with all the athletes. So we're starting these sessions again. It's the beginning of the year 2025. So I know a lot of people have either raced last year and still trying to put up your 2025 calendar, or they are still in the process of building up their base and still looking at later in the year they're going to race. So we've got a mixed crowd in this. We've got triathletes as well as runners. So the plan and the season planning remains the same for all of us. Of course, we will discuss specific questions if you have from the sport point of view. Let me just accept a few. All right. So So for people who've kind of just raced last year and they are still planning the year, and people who are kind of new, the first thing what we need to understand is how you're going to be looking at your complete year. What you would look at is what sport you're working on, and what is the time duration realistically you look at you're going to be racing. What we call is an A race. Now, what an A race would mean is that that's your race which you're going to go give your full throttle out. Could be a triathlon, could be a single discipline race, could be two races in a year, totally depending on what current state you are at. So I'll take an example of, let's say, if you are new to triathlons and if you're picking up a race sometime later in the year. So looking at a couple of factors and parameters to plan your race would be, first thing is what time of the year you want to plan this race. Now, when I say time of the year, you need to look at your personal family commitments, your family holidays, your work, looking at if there's any big event in the family which you cannot miss, or there is an important business meeting which you cannot miss. I know a lot of you work on different quarters, so different part of the world. So every year ending is very different. So you need to look at what time of the year you will have, free time which you can go and race. Pick up a race based on the weather. Personally, I don't like racing in hot weathers. I know a lot of people listening to this call also don't like racing in hot weathers. So pick up a destination where you would be racing based on whether you like hot or cold weather. So you can always pick up the geography accordingly. Look at if you're looking at doing a triathlon, look at the water conditions. If you're looking at a river swim, if you're looking at an ocean swim or a bay swim, totally depends on what kind of water conditions you prefer. I personally like cold water swims where I would wear a wetsuit. It just makes me feel comfortable. Also, it gives me a much more better swim time and efficiency. So that's the race I would pick up. Terrain. Most of you are strong cyclists, and that's a sport which we keep building up regularly. Pick up a terrain which you feel complements your strength in cycling. A lot of us are good climbers when it comes to cycling, so you might want to pick up a race where it's a cold weather. Uh, it's a it's a decent climb. It's a rolling hill. I personally don't like flats. I like rolling hills because it gives you, yes, good, strong, aggressive pull, but it gives you that recovery down in the in the steep. So what you need to look at is what kind of terrain you would want to look at. An important factor which I totally believe in, that if you have any training partner. So for example, if you are training for a particular race, let's say in August, I know a lot of people have registered talent. So all the folks who are racing in talent would be a bunch of folks training together. So when you have your long rides, you'll be training together, you'll be cycling together, you'll be running together. So the whole pace and the build phase goes together. That's a very important aspect. Last year we had three of our athletes doing a full Ironman, and in the heat, they picked up a race in August. In the month of May, June, they were going and doing 200 kilometers. They wouldn't have been able to do it if they were training alone. So just pick up a race based on if there are more people racing with you over there. So the training, works on much, much comfortable when you're training together. And of course, the most important aspect is the budget. Look at which part of the world you want to go and race. US, Europe are certainly more expensive races depending on where you want to travel. Look at your visa. I know a lot of you are well traveled, but we've had an experience last year where somebody wanted to go race in Europe, but the visa got rejected purely because they did have a travel history, but you know how these embassies are. So, keeping all these factors, what you need to first look at is pick up the main A race. All right. Could be a 70.3, could be a full, could be anything one you want to look at. Now, once you picked up that A race, what we need to now look at is we need to go back and be very realistic in me when we reflect on our last year. When I say reflect into a last year is that if you have trained and if you have raced, I want you to go back and look at smaller goals. When I say smaller goals, look at what would you want to do? You would want to build up more saddle time. See how your races have gone. See how your individual discipline has gone. If you want to build up more on saddle, you want to work on more power. So you would want to put your head down and speak to your coach and pick up a 2 3 months of good build and build up your saddle time. If running was something which you were not up to the mark in your
हमारे
last
क्लब के
race.
कोच है जो जिसका जैकेट पहन के घूमता रहता
Thanks, Vishwa. Can you please mute yourself in the mic? Thanks.
Yeah, sorry,
No
didn't
worries.
realize.
Thanks. No worries. Thanks. So, if you were not up to the mark in your runs, you would want to go back, sit down with your coach, and see very specific blocks of building up your run paces. Or simple, your aerobic fitness was not in place. You want to build up on that. So, sit down with your coach and plan each and every discipline to look at what were your areas of weakness you which want to work on. There are a lot of people who came back to me last year saying that now they want to build up on their swim. So every sport would need a little extra time depending on where you are at your base and what you would want to build up. Remember, all your goals which you want to build up on have to be very very realistic. Now, when I say realistic, of course, you know your time commitment to your trainings, you know your travels, you know your work commitments. So based on the time you can put across for your training is what you have to sit down with your coach and say, I got these 12 weeks. What can we build up on? Can we build up on the saddle power output, which was not great last year? So how can we build up? So we need to sit down and build up with that on our coach, with our coach. Your goals can be outside the specific triathlon mode also. So, for example, let's say you want to work on your aerobic pace and you want to go to a full marathon, or you want to build up on your swim, you want to do a long distance swim, a 4K or a 6K. But what we need to keep in mind is when we are doing these smaller goals, is the A race which you've picked up, all these goals have to then link up into your A race. For example, if I'm doing a 70.3 in August, and I know that my swim was a weakness. So what would you do is, yes, you will build up on your swim volume, but you're not going to go to a 6K in a race event, or you're not going to train for a full marathon. You would work on your specific half marathon timings. You would work on a 2K, 3K swim volume, which all goes up to your main A race, right? That race is something which has to completely sync up. Now, when we talk about your A race, you need to then sit down and work backwards. When I say backwards, you need to start looking at what we call is a B race and a C race. Now, what are these races? A C race would be an independent or an individual discipline. So, for example, we have picked up a race in August for a 70.3 where I'm doing a triathlon, and I've been building up on my run volume. I'm going to pick up a C race, which would be, let's say, a half marathon, which is happening in your local city, and you build up a good block with your coach, and you say, now I want to go and just work on, see if either my half marathon timing has improved, or I'm going to specifically look at a 10K timing, or I'm going to look at a half marathon, but I want to go practice my nutrition strategy, or I would work on my transition where I would do a very very short run or a bike and a run, but I want to work on a very specific area which complements my main race. But what you're doing is you're not looking at the whole triathlon bit. You're looking at individual sports. A typical example where we look at now is, a lot of people are racing August Talon 70.3s, or they are racing Vietnam. So what they're doing is they're building up individual sport. March is a good time to look at individual sports. So swimming in Kochi, open water swim, a 2K and a 4K. It's a good base for you to go test your nutrition or go test your volume, which will go into your main race. I know there are a lot of these half marathon runs happening. This is the season. Post March, April, the runs will drop. So sit down with your coach. You've been training. See how you can pick up these races where you don't have to go run all out. You can look at not a full 21, but you can look at a pacing of a 10K, which complements into a very small block in you that you're building up, right? That would be your C race, which would be more in the base and the build phase. Then we come to what we call as a B races. What would be a B race? B race would be something which directly complements my, of course, my main race. But then I would look at maybe a triathlon, which would be shorter distance. So if all the folks of Tallinn are doing a full Ironman, picking up a good 70.3 locally, internationally, totally depending on how your budget is, totally depending on how you're working with your coach, doing a shorter version of the race. If you're doing a 70.3, picking up a good Olympic distance race a few months before could be a good pace builder for your main race. You could test your pacing, you could test your transition, you could test your complete fueling strategy. But what you're doing is your multi-sport race would complement a lot into your main race. Remember, all races, what you're doing has to be a building block to your main race. Again, main race could be, I repeat, keep on repeating, it's not necessarily you're looking at a triathlon. You can look at your main race as an individual discipline also, which keeps complementing into your main race. But everything has to plan into your goal of the main race, what you're looking at. So pick up your goal or your main race, start working backwards. As you're starting working backwards, start building up into plonking into your Excel sheet what is your B race, what is your C race, and you start building it up. An important aspect I keep telling my folks is that the easiest part in this is going and racing. What is difficult is to maintain your consistent part of training, because what keeps on disrupting is your personal commitments, your family commitments, your work commitments. All this has to build in. Along with this, which is the most important aspect which we move on, which we miss as athletes, is our recovery. If you are building up a good training block, make sure you are building enough recovery after your B race and C race. C races are something which ideally you just need a couple of days of rest, recovery, and you're back into the training, calendar immediately. B races are something which I would give you a good taper week where you would look at slowing down before the main race, and then you're building up racing, and then you're giving yourself at least about 4 to 5 days to go back, recover, sit down with your coach, look at what went well, what has to be worked on, and then we keep building it up. Super clear? Any questions anybody has till now? Anybody? Any questions?
Coach, one question.
Yeah.
So let's say, what's the right thing? How many we should plan? The A is there, that's already that planned. Then B, C, D. How many are right? Like go till D, plan them. How can we define that?
Harshit, this right and wrong is something which I would want you to be working with your coach. Now, again, important aspect, what you need to look at is how is your recovery process in place? See, races, events are going to happen every Sunday. I'll give you an example. We are having the Super Sick run in Gurgaon, and within 2 weeks, we have
Right.
this NDM. So we have a two back-to-back
Right.
half marathons happening. Now, if I am racing both, I'm not going to go race full throttle both the races, right? I would choose
Okay.
out of these two races, I will choose maybe, let's say, I'm doing an NDM as a half, could be my first race of the season. If I'm looking at a Super Seek run, I'm not going to go run full throttle Super Seek as a half marathon. I would look at maybe building up a 10K in that, where I will speak to my coach, I will build up saying, hey, you know what is my pacing strategy for my NDM? Why don't we try that pacing strategy for a 10K and see if I can hold on to these paces? Yeah. Or speak to your coach saying, you know what, I've already built up. Why don't I go do that as an aerobic run, and which builds up into my training? Yeah. Or I'm going to go do a 10K at a good strong pace. I'm going to, quickly check my nutrition strategy. I'm going to see how my fueling works. So all these races, again, totally depends on your recovery. If they are local, plan your training calendar with specifics in it. Don't just randomly go register. For example, this Sunday, there is an ultra happening. I know there are a few from BCY running ultras, but none of our guys who are training for a 70.3 should be going running anything beyond a half marathon right now. That's not a base builder. So choose that. There is a trail run happening in near future. I wouldn't personally recommend anybody training for a 70.3 and looking at a race in, let's say, May or before that to go do a trail run. Trail runs are risky. The terrain is rough, a very easy twist in the ankle, and then you know that you're off for good 3-4 weeks, and then the whole season is gone. So there is never a thing of how many are enough for me. It totally depends on how you would want to put your race calendar in place. The only thing is, all the races have to go sync in with a goal to your main race. Yeah.
Got it. Great.
Are you doing a time trial for NDM?
Yes, yes. I think I have to talk to Rachna around
Because
this.
that will
But
be
yes,
you going to so
Tallinn.
this will
So my
you
A
going
race
to
is
Tallinn.
Tallinn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tallinn is my A race. So this I need to plan that how NDHM should be in my training plan
So
and
there are
how Super
multiple
Sig
runs
runs should be
happening.
in my
NDM Super Sig, then there is Toughman also they've announced. So there are multiple races happening.
right.
So you can pick up accordingly and put it in your
Right.
calendar. But this is something which you
We
should do
discussed on
now.
the Olympic part also.
Yeah, there is DIT
Okay.
happening.
Okay.
You can always pick up
Got it.
an Olympic DIT to build up as your B race much before your talent race. So there are multiple
Right.
races happening. Just discuss it with them. Yeah. Ankur sir, please go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
Got it.
Yeah, so a couple of questions that suppose, I'm planning a race sometime in the fall, maybe with my son. Not decided yet because his mind is not on the race, so I don't want to push him. But let's say if I do a race in August or September and as my A race,
Yeah.
can I do another 70.3 halfway from now till then?
I mean, I can specifically say that for you. You've raced in December, so that was a good race. You've been off. You've taken a good recovery break, and you are building up now. A good time for you should be a 3-month build. So when I say a 3-month, a 12 to 15 week build, that's something which you can look at. So if you're looking at your main race to be, or let's say one A race to be in August, September, a gap of good 2 months in between that should be a good A race for you as well. Like I said in the beginning of the call, it's not necessary that you have to have one A race. You can always pick up multiple A races also. In between the two races, if you give enough recovery time, see, how good you recover, or as an individual athlete, how quickly I recover and get back up on my feet for training. So if you are picking up, let's say, a race in the US, I know you're looking at California where there are good climbs. If you, let's say, pick that up. So a good course in a race which is something similar, a rolling hills could be a good build for you for that race also. But yes, to answer your question, you can look at a good race in April, May. So you'll have June, July, August. If you're looking at end of August, a good 3 months of where you give a break of 1 week and then you go back to your working on some things, the misses in your previous race. So yes, certainly you can pick up.
On the other hand, if I want to improve my time for a September race, then I should perhaps concentrate on whatever particular aspect of my discipline so that I can build up to that. Then I should not do a 70.3 in between. That will defeat the purpose.
Not necessarily again defeating a purpose. See, whenever you race, you always get, you certainly get fitter and faster when you're racing. So if you're already building a block for, let's say, your power, and you're already, you are a good runner in terms of, in your swim also. So you can always go do a good strong race and see how you're improving from your previous races and build up. Yeah. See, every time you race, there will always be areas of not just getting faster. There are a lot of different aspects of a race you start keeping, or you keep improving. Uh, if you pick up, let's say, a race where it can teach you a good rolling hills. It can work with you picking up a little, I would say, the headwinds, rough waters. All races will teach you some kind of different experience. So yes, you are building up a strong block. You want to improve, but always racing, pacing, and going and understanding the race day will always get you stronger. So if you pick up two with a specific block, so let's say if I want to be at a certain level, I would want you to do a couple of races in between, build that power, build those paces, and then keep building it up on it. So my personal thing, which I've spoken to you earlier as well, building up a race in April, May should be a good block for you to go race back in the US in September. It's two races. And once you're done, I think you can call off your year in a high.
Okay, fine, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thought. I'm not going to do it, but it's just a thought. I mean, I may do it. I don't know. Let's see.
Just a thought, but yeah, I think you should certainly look at one. Telling you, Vietnam is something you
Yeah.
should certainly look at, 11th of May.
Where is Vietnam?
11th of May.
11th? Okay.
It's a
All
good
right.
flat course, so you should look at it. Fast course.
Yes.
Hot, but yeah.
Yes, I haven't forgotten the ball. That's the only problem.
Yeah. Rohan, please go ahead.
Yes, so coach, so you mentioned about C races being an individual sport race and B races being a multi-sport race.
Yeah.
So for somebody like me who's going to be a first timer targeting Vietnam,
Yeah.
so is it necessary to do a B race? I mean, maybe there is no triathlon which is scheduled there,
Yeah.
or we can even cover it up in practice and
Yeah.
do a mock, build up for that race.
Correct. I think that's something which all of us are and will be facing these challenges. The amount of triathlons happening in our neighborhood. There are not many happening now, and between say now to May, there are just one or two happening. Either in I think there's one happening in Kerala and there's one happening in I think Pune. Sorry, Mysore. So there are two happening. Bergman is doing it. So there are not many races happening in between. So unfortunately, we will not have a lot of race simulations. But what we do is then we create a lot of, our own mini tries. This Sunday, all the Muscat guys are doing a mini try. There is no race happening. So we are creating that mini try for them. Where yes, of course, there is no exact push on the race front, but you understand the the small little nitty gritty of getting your transitions in place, getting your your bike run in place, and getting your nutrition in place when you look at a good 2 to 4 hour of mini try. So for you, I know you're doing May Vietnam. There are not many races happening. So yes, we need to build this up in our race simulations, and we need to do it with that mindset.
Okay.
DIT is April.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, which one?
DIT will be April.
Yeah, DIT is April. Swimming pools, try if you ever want to do that. But again, we'll discuss that on a different front, looking at the safety and looking at the road conditions. So we'll talk about this on a different level. But yeah, that's the DIT which is happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, great. Any more questions, anybody? I mean, more or less, I wanted to quickly take everybody through to plan. Important thing is, whatever you plan, I would want you to discuss it with your coach. Once you discuss it with your coach, make sure it is updated on the TP, because every time you open it, it flashes that, okay, I got 8-10 weeks to go. Otherwise, then it's not updated. The coach is not informed. And now all of a sudden in the middle, you come and put across saying, coach, hey, you know what, I'm running this Sunday. So there is a lot of communication which has to go up with the coach. So I know a lot of my ultra runners and my long distance runners have also joined. So guys, again, I want you to keep your communications open with Parikshit. You need to keep telling him what your race goals are, what your race strategies are, and accordingly plan. There are a lot of races happening in the neighborhood, in your half and full marathons across. don't just blindly go register. There has to be a very specific purpose of why you're doing, and you're running that. You want to challenge yourself with a new terrain. You want to challenge yourself with a little more, in terms of your paces, or you want to go challenge your nutrition strategy. A lot of these things will get answered if you understand why you want to go race. LSDs, you can go run LSD any day you want. Yeah, just because they're giving you hydration and nutrition support, you don't have to go register. There could be a lot of LSDs which can be done at your own pace, at your own convenience. Right? Awesome. Anything else, guys? Any questions? Anything related to your season? Anything related to your calendar? What you're looking at to race? What was the short call? 30 minutes. Great. How many of us are doing full Ironmans here, are still in the group here? I can see. So why don't I check with my full Ironman guys? How many of you are doing a full, and have you put your calendar in terms of any 70.3s you're doing? Rachna? Doing any 70.3?
I am doing Jatin 70.3.
No, I'm asking for people who are registered for full and they're
Achha.
looking for a 70.3 in between. The calendar is
So, Coach,
open, the year is still fresh. Yeah.
so I've registered for Barcelona full,
Yeah.
and I'm doing Vietnam.
Great. Which month is Barcelona?
October. I think it's the 6th of October.
6th of October. And you're doing Vietnam, which is on 11th of May.
7th of May. Yeah.
May, June, July, August, September, October. Big gap, but I think will be a good build, picking up your, areas of improvement from your 70.3 and going and cracking your Barcelona. Barcelona is a good course, I think. Little climb in the end, if I'm not mistaken, in the middle, right?
Little bit, yes.
Yeah. Great. All right. Super. We've got one of our new coaches also here. Ketki, how's your running calendar season looking like? Have you discussed it with your coach? Hi, Ketki, you there? Oops, I got it. Okay, I think. Hi, Ketki.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I got you at
Can
the
you
wrong
hear me?
folder. Yes, we can.
No, I was trying to unmute and I
That's okay. You're in the call with the group, so we wanted to hear your race calendar.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
does it look like, and how are you planning with your racing
So,
experience?
well, actually, this year is a little bit, I've decided to take it a little easy. Well, I do have TMM coming up day after,
Yeah.
and I have NDM coming up in Feb.
Okay.
And other than that, I have my World Championships in November. So I'm going to start planning, working backwards from there.
Mhm.
To exactly the points that you were making, Jatin, a B race and a C race, and I haven't really put my mind to it, and I don't have a running coach at this point. I've been coaching myself.
Okay.
So yes,
And both
I've
TMM
been
and
coaching
NDM,
myself.
you're looking at halves, right?
Yes, I am,
Great.
because I haven't really put in the work for a full. So yeah, and NDM
Great.
in all my running years, I've never done it. So I figured this would be a good time to do it for the first time. So
Great.
uh,
Thanks.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Guys, just to highlight a point, I know last year, when the year finishes and you start a fresh year, there are a lot of these emotions running that मैं इस साल full करूंगा या मैं इस साल कुछ और करूंगा. I want you to go back and be very, very realistic with your goals. In the beginning of the year, everybody is high on adrenaline, everybody is high on motivation. Please understand, if you have that time to train, that is the most important part. Going and racing, traveling is the most easiest part. The build up and the time commitment you're going to be build up for your longer endurance for a 10, 12, 14-hour weeks is where you need to go back and understand whether you can commit from the family front, from the work front, from your social obligations to your personal life. Everything has to fall in place. Remember, all these race calendars have to fall in place where you're enjoying the process. It cannot become a routine. It cannot become a danda from your coach that I'm going to go do it because my coach is pushing me to do it. You have to enjoy the process where it sinks into your lifestyle and you are picking up realistic goals. Um, and I'll be very open here. Last year we had about 6 did not starts, and the 6 did not starts for Ironman full did not happen purely because people did not or could not train for that. Yes, 1 or 2 people had built up injuries, but a lot of them could not commit to the time of training. So eventually, when they wrote back, they got it pushed to this year. So they brought it down from a full to a half because reality started hitting them. So be very realistic when you're choosing your races, picking up your events, whether it is a full marathon also. There is a lot of training which goes in. I know a lot of folks in this group right now listening are aspiring to do NDM full, are training for it, but everybody understands that training commitment is very, very difficult. People, especially in the northern part of the country, they need to understand to pick up a races, the seasons. Post October, Diwali is on its way, pollution is crazy, fog goes crazy, you're not able to go do outdoor rides. And then suddenly, if you have a race in March, April, then suddenly look at coach, hey, you know what? I couldn't do longer rides outdoors. I couldn't go for my longer runs because of the extreme cold, because of the pollution, whatever it could be. So pick up your races accordingly where you know you have enough, training comfort, or the right word to use is maybe the availability of the resources around you to go and train for that. People in the southern part, the season is not that crazy, so they can always train 24 12 months around the year. Unlike us, there are always these roadblocks we have. Right. Great. Let's pick up one of our runners here, guys. Anybody wants to join in and tell us what your race calendar looks like? Any of our old runners? Parikshit is here, guys. Parikshit, why don't you share your race calendar? I know
Coach, sorry,
you're
I had a training question. If
Yes,
you,
Saman. Yeah.
so, Coach, recently I've been having a lot of injuries. I think obviously it's related to sleep cycle, and I've been, I think Pankaj sir and Parikshit sir have advised me to take salt tablets as well when I run, and that has really helped. Amazingly, that has really helped. But I've let go of doing leg days completely because when I go, I do mostly hypertrophy, or 1 week it's powerlifting, 3 weeks it's hypertrophy. So my legs are very sore. So on Tuesdays we would have normally have drills. So my plan was to do legs on Sunday after LSD on Saturday, so that I can recover on Monday. And then Tuesdays were not of so much of a load. But now, because the goals that I've given to coach, my Tuesdays and my Thursdays are looking like tempo and uh, your interval runs.
Right.
So if I do leg day now at all, which I have not been able to do, then I don't recover till any one of my runs. Um, and the glutes are giving up. Most of my injuries are happening in the glutes because I've stopped doing squats. I'm focusing. I can do deadlifts, but because 40% of it is upper body. But I've stopped doing squats, hip thrust, and all those things I've stopped. So I feel that is also lacking. So how do I plan that in this schedule?
Okay. So again, this comes into planning up your season. Okay. Now you would have realized that you've been training and the volume is slowly increasing, right? When I talk about volume, I talk about your endurance volume, right? So you would have started
Right.
with a good
Right.
2 to 3 hours a week of volume of running, and as you start building up, your volume in terms of the number of hours you're putting in a week increases. right? Now,
Right.
what you're doing is you're building up gradually and slowly, and this would have been a good 3 to 6 months period, knowing you and knowing how you've been building up for a long time. Now, when you draw your calendar for your endurance training, you have to parallelly draw your strength and conditioning calendar also. You cannot do the same volume of your strength and conditioning when you were running for 4 hours, and now you're running for, let's say, 8 hours. You cannot sustain the same volume. As your volume,
Okay.
I will talk about hours, okay? I'm not talking about in kilometers here. As your hours of training increases in your endurance, your strength training has to reduce. Okay? Now,
Okay.
your strength training has to be in correlation to what sport you're working on. You're working on running. Okay? Your strength training cannot be of hypertrophy. आपको डोले नहीं बनाने रन भागने के लिए, आपको क्या करना है, आपकी अपनी मसल को एक्टिवेट रखना है, आपको स्ट्रेंथ ट्रेनिंग बंद नहीं करनी है, आपको स्क्वाट्स बंद नहीं करने हैं, आपको हिप थ्रस्ट बंद नहीं करना. These are all the exercises which complement running. मगर आपको उसकी वॉल्यूम
Okay.
को प्लान करना है. आपको 100 किलो के बैक स्क्वाट्स नहीं लगाने, आपको 100 किलो के 8 reps के 4 सेट नहीं लगाने. What you probably might have to do is you have to look at doing power training, but cut down on the volume. So if I am, let's say, training, again, I'll speak in hours. If I am in my beginning of my season where I know I have a race in 6 months, so my volume is planned, PT has planned my volume for about 3 to 4 hours a week, I can do a 3 hour of strength training or 4 hour of strength training, where post that training, I know I have enough time to sleep and recover. Remember, the body does not get
Okay.
stronger when you're running. It doesn't get stronger when you're doing that 100 kg squat. The body only gets stronger when you are sleeping and you're recovering. So अगर आप जिस मोड पे सोना है, आपको रिकवर होना है, आप वही नहीं कर रहे, so how will you expect your body to load to maintain that? Yeah, all your
Okay.
your joints, your muscles, everything is going through so much of stress. So you're going to bound to get injured. So right now, if you're looking at doing an NDM full, you should be looking at purely recovery rolling activations. Yeah, you should be doing all
Sure.
that right now, which complements your running. So once this is over, sit down. Injury is a cause of either overtraining or not enough recovery. That's the only way injuries happen. If you're overtraining, now overtraining doesn't mean that you're going and running for miles. Overtraining also means that you are running, and on those tired legs, you're going and doing unnecessary strength training. You're just putting a lot of load and stress. So work that off.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
great.
For upper body as well, I should not focus on hypertrophy at all.
Not at all. Get out of the mindset of doing arms, backs, biceps. Those days are gone. Start looking at training in the way of push and pull. Where you're pushing one day, you're pulling one day,
Sure.
doing all exercises which push, complement pulling. Then you can look at doing maybe just glutes, not just squat, doing specific movements. Plan. There are 10,000 exercises which we can look at. What helps you into your running is what you need to plan.
Sure, sir.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks. Getting back to the main topic, guys, any more questions? Remember, all the traces which you got to plan your season, complemented with your recovery, complemented with your lifestyle around it. If you have that commitment to put time in it, pick up as many races, pick up maybe 2 A races, maybe pick up 3 A races if your body has enough time to recover. I got one of these young guys, 19-year-old kid I'm working with, and I'm getting him to race every second month, because I want him to get a lot of race exposure, because he is ready to go race. And I want him to, we have goals of, looking at some very, very strong, aggressive timings. He's 19, he's young, he's recovering fast. So I'm pushing him to go race as much as he can. So it totally depends on how your body takes it. Awesome. Any more questions, guys? PT, I wanted to quickly take you through your race calendar. How does it look? Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Hi,
Excellent.
everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir. Let's take us through your calendar for your ultra runs.
This year, as of now, there are 3 races what I have decided on. One of them is in March. That's the last week of March, the White Sand Ultra. Then the other one is in September. Again, the Silk Route, which is 100 plus, and the last one would be in December. So there's a there's a lot of time between the three races, especially between the first one in March and the second one in September. So I'm going to maybe pick up another one.
Sorry,
in
a quick
between.
question. Sorry, pretty quick question. When did you do your last race? I know it, but I wanted to know everybody knows it on the same page.
In December 2024, the second week of December.
Right.
So I have a gap of around like 3.5 months for my next race.
Right. And help us
So
understand how did you plan it? Why did you plan these three races? What were the
See, primary reason was to experience the new terrain that is in March. This is the first time, the first edition of this race, so I wanted to experience that. Plus, I had the build up from the December race, which was itself a 100 plus kilometer run, and a gap of 3 months was good enough for me to recover from the fatigue of the race and build up again for the similar kind of a race. So that was the main reason. Silk Route has always been on my checklist, so I have given enough gap between Silk Route and the March one. Plus, desert is always the Hell border race is always one of the favorites, so that's like a to do every year as of now. So these races, these were the criteria for deciding the races.
And just to help us understand from your border in December to your March, your White Sand Ultra, what are the kind of races you've planned in the middle to make sure that you're building up?
I am not taking part in any of the races per se, but whatever the plan is, all the races would be part of the training plan. So, for example, I'm doing SSR on the first week of February. So that's going to be part of my training plan. So that is not something where I'll be going all out. But yes, I have a time criteria. I'm doing the pacing there. So I have a time criteria. So it forms the build-up part.
Excellent. Great. But everything is falling into your training, and that's what. So 3 ultra races, all 100 plus distances with enough gap on recovery, knowing that we fall into that fatigue where we need to come back and give ourselves good about 2-3 weeks to totally unload. Yeah. Anything extra you're doing, because this is you have enough time for your race. What extra are you doing to build up that training for everybody's?
The strength. I am doing both the running strength for runners as well as the regular strength, where I'm not going very heavy, but to give required strength, especially to the lower body. I'm doing strength with Akshit as well as the morning sessions with Jatin sir.
Right. So you're focusing a lot on your strength.
Not to forget the recovery.
Yes, not recovery. I know you're sitting with a gun every evening and working on your quads. So
yes.
So again, guys. So right now we are building up. So he has roughly about 11 to 12 hours of running a week. So he's got enough time to recover. Looking at his, his volume, his body can sustain. So he's getting enough recovery time. He's ensuring he's building up enough of strength. So that's something which I want you to plan in your calendar. But if you're not racing right now, you need to build enough time for your strength. That's a very important criteria to get into stronger timings, stronger efforts, recovery faster, and less of fatigue. All this falls into place. And of course, not to mention the importance of balanced nutrition and ensuring that you're sleeping. That's where the whole the magic is. Thanks, PD. All right. Anybody else wants to share their experience of how their races have been and how they want to plan the season? If you're not sure how to plan it, maybe we can discuss it so everybody can use that as an example. Okay. No questions. So great. I think a good time, 47-minute call. Guys, if you still have any questions related to this, if you're still not sure, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to your respective coaches. We are always available for you. We can take this together and we can help you plan. Remember, if you plan your calendar at the beginning of the year, more systematically, more realistically. Your training gets more easier. Your training goals become much more realistic and achievable. And that's where we want to do. We have all our aspirations to achieve in our race, build towards it, and plan it well. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. On a Friday evening, we will be coming back again on the 31st, where we have another call. I will share the topic soon, and let's make it more conversational. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy.